Okay, here we come. Right. I always feel bad that I don't have any cool music when people join these things.
What, you don't like having a Tony Robbins set up? Jumping up and down? Flashing lights?
I have. So this is really weird. I listen to, I'd say, fairly obscure music when I'm trying to write. Like I just need something, I need something like noise, sound, but it can't be something where I understand the words, if that makes sense. So
yep, that's fair.
Instrumental music, I actually really like instrumental dance music, but I've recently gotten into Latin hip hop. Very like lyrical and rhythmic, and I have no idea what they're saying.
Yep. I only have Japanese music on my phone, so it's all good. Yeah. I totally get it.
Same thing. Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you for hopping on. I think you all know me, Greg Johnson. I invited you. I want to introduce you today to my friend Drew Hitchcock. He's going to teach us all about YouTube, and I asked Drew to. He's gonna pretty much lead this thing. And I told him to do a quick intro on himself, but he's going to downplay that way too much. And so I wanted to let you know that Drew is legitimately the wizard behind the curtain for a lot of very large and serious YouTube accounts. He's kind of the secret sauce to some very successful YouTubers. And he doesn't step out in front very often. Like he is just kind of back there, pulling levers and turning dials and making magic happen. But today he's gonna share some of his wisdom and secrets with us, and that's what I got. So I'm gonna probably shut up and just pay attention to anybody else in the waiting room to let him in. But I will let Drew take it away.
Awesome. Appreciate the time, everybody. So my name is Drew Hitchcock. I run a small boutique YouTube agency and am partnered with Evan Carmichael. I end up working with a lot of his friends in the thought leadership space. And as Greg said, I work with a lot of notable people, and I have a unique perspective in that I have access to about 15 to 20 million subscribers worth of data, which not many people get privy to. So today I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about YouTube and some of the kind of the 80-20 principle of what actually matters, because if you go around the YouTube sphere and try to learn how to do YouTube on YouTube, they're going to tell you that there's all sorts of bells and whistles that you need to figure out in order to like make it work. And at least what we have found is that there's really only a handful of things that matter. So I hope to simplify the process and give you guys some perspective on kind of what actually you need to pay attention to and kind of what the game looks like. So just out of curiosity, for those who have the cams on, how many people actually are running a channel and are maybe have a little bit of traction? Or let's see. Cool. So we got a couple. Good. Awesome. So I first want to kind of like set the stage and kind of explain why I believe YouTube is by far the best platform that anybody should be building an audience or a business on top of. Mainly because a lot of people, when they look at the TikToks and the Instagrams of the world, they kind of get a little bit of FOMO as far as like they see all these crazy numbers. And I want to kind of help demystify and help you understand why YouTube is positioned in such a way that gives you kind of the foundation in order to actually build a business that ultimately will last for a lot longer and more sustainable period of time than any of these other platforms that are just popping up. So if you have ever shown up to your homepage and scrolled down the homepage, one of the things that you will probably notice is most of the videos are actually not something that was released today. Most of them are actually something that was released weeks, months, and sometimes even years ago. Whereas all the other social media platforms in the current stage of things, if a piece of content is alive 2 to 3 days after it was posted, like you're lucky. So YouTube is uniquely positioned in that it is not only just a platform where you can post content and get eyeballs on something immediately, but it's something that's going to actually live forever. The other piece of YouTube is people are actually going to YouTube specifically to learn things. And obviously, like there are lots of different genres in YouTube, whether it be entertainment, inspiration, but education is a foundational piece of YouTube. And because of that, people are going to consume content for longer periods of time. This gives you a unique opportunity to actually kind of show people who you are, give your experience, and let people get to know you through your content and through your education. And the other piece of YouTube that is super nice is that it's already got a monetization piece built in where you don't have to actively go and sell things in order to make money from YouTube. So those are kind of the foundations of why I believe YouTube ultimately is by far the #1 platform that you should be focusing on when it comes to social media. Now, the 80-20 of YouTube really only boils down to a handful of things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each thing, give you the high level, and then we'll circle back and kind of go deeper and kind of walk through everything. So the key metrics in the back end that you need to be paying attention to are your video's audience retention curve and your click-through rate. For those who aren't familiar with click-through rate, basically, when you release a video, YouTube will try to get a feel for who your audience looks like. If you already have a subscriber base, they already kind of have some data on that, which is great. But if you're just starting from scratch, they're going to make a guess on who your audience looks like based on criteria of what they analyzed in your video when you released it. What YouTube is trying to determine is how compelling is your piece of content relative to other pieces of content in that genre. So your click-through rate is simply just like the number of times that video was showed in front of something, in front of somebody, compared to the number of times that somebody actually decided to watch that video. So with that means from a practicality standpoint, the thing that matters is the thumbnail on the video, so the artwork that shows the video, and the title that you crafted for that piece of content. So when a lot of people talk about, you know, I want to show up in search and all of the kind of more data driven pieces of YouTube, at least in our experience, search actually makes a very low, here, let me see if I can mute.
Mom's listening to something.
Hey, Elizabeth. Yeah, there you go. Cool. Just wanted to make sure she was muted. Yeah. So at the end of the day, the way that YouTube actually serves your piece of content, search is a component of it. But the thing that they look at specifically in order to determine what keywords your video actually shows up against is actually based on what has physically been processed by the video rather than the user inputted data. Now, when you upload a YouTube video, you have a couple of things that you can control. You've got the thumbnail and title, which we've already talked about. You've got the description, like what shows up under the video. And then you've got the metadata tags. Now, interestingly enough, if you read the metadata tags, like it's got like a little descriptor of like what it's used for. At the very last sentence that it says is your tags do not change how your videos show up in search. And as a function of that, most people who spend 10, 15, 20 minutes, I've seen even up to an hour, trying to figure out what tags should go on their video, when in reality, it literally makes 0 sense because it doesn't contribute any factors. The description is, the way that I look at this, the description is this is your hub of where could I want to send people. So you get 3 lines at just below your video where it's automatically shown. This is usually an optimal place to put, a lead magnet, getting people onto a landing page to a lead magnet and things like that. But the rest of the description is usually just kind of a hub of like, what are other videos that perform well as far as converting people to subscribers, your other social handles, maybe talk a little bit about what's in the video. All of those are not necessary things, but they're helpful for the viewer. So I wouldn't spend a whole bunch of time on the description, but it's definitely a nice to have. And we can talk a little bit about kind of like the strategies for getting people onto the email list, like how does that play into the video? Let's see. Audience. So back to the audience retention curve. So when you release a video, as people watch that video, YouTube will give you a curve that looks something like, here, let me see if I can share my screen. Curve that looks something like this. So two benchmarks that are worth paying attention to is at the 1 minute mark. For videos that are between 10 minutes and 30 minutes, you want to shoot for a 70% retention at the 1 minute mark. This is generally a good benchmark. Like when somebody comes into a video, they're immediately going to try and figure out, is this thing what I thought it was going to be? And am I going to get out of it what I thought I was going to get out of it? So your thumbnail and title is what's compelling them to click on the video. And then the first minute is just people trying to confirm that the thing that they thought that they wanted from that title and thumbnail, am I going to get it? If we can keep people around for longer in that first minute, there's a high probability that they're going to stick around for the majority of the video. Now, what's nice about this curve is if you have significant dips that's past that 1 minute mark, that gives you some indication on what are some things that I said that compelled people to click away. You know, maybe I called out another video that people felt like I needed to go watch that video in order to get all the information. They clicked on that video, but never came back to this one. Oh, maybe I want to save calling out that video till the end of the video. So keep them there for longer, tell them that you have something, but you'll link it at the end. So you can use this as kind of an indicator of like, how well are you doing from a communication standpoint and how compelling are you keeping people around for the entirety of the video? Now, a lot of people ask me questions around like, how long should my video be? And you'll hear a wide variety. The category that we are seeing the highest traction to is the hour-plus long category. Now, most people would be like, who the hell is going to stick around for a 1 hour long piece of video? And you would be surprised with the number of people who are sticking around for 3 hour long pieces of videos. So don't feel like you have to limit yourself to a specific length, because by having longer videos, what you'll find is that you're actually feeding into the algorithm the thing that it wants, which is watch time. So the reason why we have these retention benchmarks and why we recommend at least 10 minutes plus is because on average, we want a certain amount of watch time per video. And the more watch time we can get per view on a video, the more likely that that video is going to start to show up in YouTube's suggested algorithm. Now, there are kind of 3 different algorithms within YouTube right now. There are shorts, which are kind of your Reel/TikTok style of video. And we can talk a little bit about that. Most of the people that I work with, shorts are lesser common types of content. So I have probably a little less experience with shorts, but I can kind of give you some anecdotal stuff that I'm seeing personally. Then you've got your search algorithm, which is people who are specifically trying to show up against keywords. And then there's the suggested algorithm, which is YouTube is actively recommending my content against other people's content. It has been my experience that when you shift your focus from search to suggested, the amount of viewership that potential that your channel has is around 5 to 7 times than when you are focusing on search alone. Now you're probably asking like, okay, so if suggested is so important, how do we actually like feed into that algorithm? And this is where watch time on the video and the click-through rate of the video are that important, because those are 2 of the biggest factors in your videos starting to get suggested more against other videos. Let's see. Fun little tidbit also about the audience retention curve. If you have any type of back end, this is like a typical audience retention curve that shows you kind of your viewership over time. Occasionally, you will find there are instances where there are small little bumps. And you're probably scratching your head like, why are there small little bumps? Well, those small little bumps represent people rewinding or sharing that instance of your video. So if you're trying to make content for Instagram and TikTok and all these other places, rather than just shooting from the hip and saying, oh, I think this is an interesting section of my video, you can actually use the data to tell you that people are sharing and it gives you the indication of like what people actually like. So this then become, when you hear of Gary Vee's like content funnel, start with the long form content that bleed down into other pieces. This is what he's talking about. It's I have this long form piece of content where there are instances where people are sharing and showing me with the data that it's important. And I can then turn that into a micro piece of content for the other platforms. Does that make sense? Nods? Yes? Cool. Cool. And then I did also want to show one other slide real quick of this is kind of back to the conversation around content living forever. So at least in our experience with longer form pieces of content, you're going to have stages where content, when you release it, your audience is going to see it, but it doesn't necessarily always, like a video going viral doesn't happen instantly. A lot of times there's a build-up period in order for it to go viral. So this particular video was a 47-minute video. It was an interview between a client and Robert Kiyosaki. We thought this thing was going to go gangbusters. So it got released in August. And in that first few month period, didn't really do much. And then all of a sudden we were averaging, I think at its peak, it was like 3,500 views a day. We averaged between 400 and 500 subscribers a day at the peak. Did really well for about a 2-month period of time, died down. And then just in the last year, now this piece of content was released in 2019. Just in the last year, it started to make a comeback and, basically go from a few hundred views a day to a couple thousand views a day. So at least in my experience, this is why having long form pieces of content be a part of your content strategy is really crucial, because this gives you more opportunities to have videos to lift up the entire channel. On this particular client's channel, we found that 70% of all of his subscribers came from 7 videos. He's got 400-ish videos on his channel. Today, he sits at around just under 70,000 subscribers. So I just want to emphasize that a lot of YouTube is about continually priming the pump. And when you have the video hit that's going to hit, it's going to rise the entire channel along with it. Cool. So I've been rambling on for a little bit. Any questions thus far? I just want to kind of have this be more of a conversation, not just completely dominate you with data, because data can be boring sometimes. Everybody is muted.
So for anybody who has an existing channel, like if you have any questions or anything, and if you're not comfortable just like hopping on right now, feel free to throw it in the chat and we can address it there as well.
I'll jump in quickly if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, really enjoying this, Drew. I heard you on Greg's podcast a few months back and actually saw a little bit of your stuff, but I have a fairly small channel, but I'm looking at putting a lot more into it right now. So this is like just the ticket, this type of stuff. There's so much info out there.
Yep.
And I am a mix of So just for some context,
Yeah.
channel roughly a year old, and literally just to start out, basically did not put a ton of work into it. But anyways, sitting around just under 400 subscribers. And I mean, just like you said, like I had one video that got caught up and started getting suggested. So most of my videos probably have 50 views. This one got up, it slowly got up to 1,000. And then kind of 4 months later, it just sort of got caught up. And in like a month, it went to 10,000. So that was awesome. Basically got me, I think, most of my subscribers. And it was a longer video as well. Yeah, that's my channel. So I talk a lot about the carnivore diet. That's kind of the topic of it. And the video that kind of popped off was one of those. But I guess that was just some context. My question is more, I'm looking at doing more longer term interviews. So it's interesting to hear you say that that's a good thing to do. Maybe some other people have this as well. Sometimes coming up with content can be a challenge consistently. So I'm looking to move to at least kind of an interview a week for sort of a baseline. And then I just do little kind of short videos in selfie mode most of the time, but yeah.
So just kind of like the quick scan of this. The
thumbnails need work. You're probably gonna, there's no thumbnails for most of them.
Thumbnails are very critical. Like creating something that's compelling, like people are very visual people. So you have to give somebody like, hey, how can I visually represent what they're going to get out of this video with my thumbnail? Like I like to think of it like the thumbnail leads into the title. So if I can compel them with the thumbnail to be like, oh, I wonder what that title is, and get them to read the title, then usually you've won the click at that point. So having like, you know, it doesn't have to be complicated. So for thought leadership, so this is more of like in kind of the food diet, that kind of thing. So it's got its own like style to it. In thought leadership, at least what we have found is like face on the right hand side. You know, if you go look at Evan Carmichael, the impact theory guys, Lewis Howes, they all look the same. Face on the right hand side, compelling text on the left hand side that leads to the title, and then the compelling title. And the reason, at least in all of our experience, now we run split tests on all of our clients' channels, and we have yet to beat that format. Like we cannot find at least in the thought leadership category, a more compelling format for thumbnails. So what we do is a lot of what we do is just coming up with other iterations of that like layout of how do I make this more compelling? Do I use an accent color backing as opposed to a black backing? You know, those type of questions where there's a lot of trial and error, just trying to eke out more performance. And over time, as you increase your click-through rate on your videos, you'll find that you get more and more traction with your videos. The other thing that's nice about YouTube is like nothing is set in stone. If you want to go change your thumbnail, you can do that tomorrow. If you want to change your title, you can change that tomorrow. Sometimes all you have to do is repackage the thumbnail and the title to get the video to perform the way that you want it to. Like most people believe that when they release a piece of content, it's dead content at that point. At least in our experience, like we can revive those pieces of content. So your library actually becomes a field of opportunities rather than, oh, I've just got to keep producing more.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the low hanging fruit is definitely the thumbnails then.
For sure. Yep. Definitely on your channel. And then I would go through and read each of your titles, and I would ask yourself the question, like, so like a lot of these look very similar. So carnivore diet versus lion diet for depression, anxiety, and so it's like, this is like, hey, how can I throw all these keywords into this title? Like, so it's like, as a viewer, I see all these keywords, but I'm like, what the heck am I going to get out of this thing? So make the title like, for me, it's like, what is the problem that I am dealing with that this video might solve? And how do I craft my title and thumbnail around that, like solving that problem that makes me more compelled to go and see what you have to say? So
Awesome.
Good deal. Cool. Any other questions in there?
I have a question.
Sure.
So I have, well, one of my YouTube channels is teaching people how to crochet. So
Okay,
it's like
perfect.
tutorials.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done one over 10 minutes long because
Okay.
I don't know if I could do that. So I don't want to fill it with just fluff.
Yeah.
What would you recommend? Like trying to figure out how to make them longer or just do what I need?
Yeah, because tutorial stuff, I don't know, like I think a lot of, whenever I think like tutorial, like how to, I think like software tutorials where you can get into the weeds of things. Crocheting.
I mean, I could talk about the yarn and the different hooks, but I just feel like I'm going to bore people to tears.
You would be surprised that people want the details. So I have a client who's in the insurance space, and his best videos are talking with clients about the strategy that they implemented for them and all the details associated with like what their situation was, the strategy that they put in place, and then 6 months later. Those are some of the best videos that we have on that channel. And we're talking about insurance here.
Yeah,
Like,
very boring.
Like, I mean, I can't tell you the number of channels that you would be like, oh my gosh, how could they make a channel about that? And it works. So the other thing too that you have to think through is like, what's the end game? Like, so with YouTube, there's kind of like one of two paths that you can take. There are people who, I want to build a personal brand. I want to be this big thing that has millions of subscribers, and that's the path I want to go down. Then there are other people who are like, I don't necessarily care if I have 1 million subscribers, but I want this thing to funnel clients or paying customers to me.
That's
so the strategy is a little bit different because you're not necessarily focusing on the masses. You're focusing on the people who are specifically looking for that thing that I can help solve. So I would say for you, yeah, getting into some of the details to make it a little bit longer would probably be helpful. What's the channel name actually?
It's called I Can Crochet That. And I thought until just about 15 minutes ago when I hopped on here, I thought that I was focusing more on TikTok because I thought that's where I needed to be. But now hearing what you said about, yeah, just the fact that videos from years ago can show up, that makes so much more sense because I'm doing evergreen content. I'm not doing
exactly
trendy kind of stuff. So now, thanks, Greg, for hosting this. Because now I know I need to refocus on YouTube. It makes total sense.
Yeah. So like, I mean, just looking at your videos. So yeah, I think from a thumbnail perspective, couple key things of feedback are just like for making sure that there's enough contrast. So some of this text gets a little bit lost. So you might want to shift your color. Like this black on white always looks great.
Oh wait, that's not, I don't think that is your screen sharing. Mine.
I Can Crochet That is the channel. Yes.
Yeah.
Am I not sharing the right screen? I could just not be sharing.
So.
Here, let me share. How about now?
There we go.
Hey, okay. Yeah. So this white on black looks great. And showing off the thing that you're making in that video, totally the right angle to go, specifically in this niche. But it's like this kind of stuff where it's like it's a little hard to read the text. You got to be very mindful of like I can read the text because I'm on desktop. If I'm on a phone, good luck. So
True.
making sure that there's enough contrast would be super helpful. And another thing that you can do if you like a particular color palette and you still want to make it pop, just add like a border around the text, like a black border around the text. So that way there's at least some distinguishing element between the backing and the text itself.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
But Yeah. So how long has the channel been going? Maybe a year or so?
Just a year. Yeah. And
Cool.
it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't something I was focusing on. I was just throwing it up there for the people that come to my blog who want to learn, and figured that was the best place to host it. So
yeah, I mean, you're already at 842 subscribers, which is great. And so we can talk a little bit about, because my guess is you probably have a blog and email list also associated with this. So we can talk a little bit about strategies that you can use for this. So typically speaking, on a little bit of a tangent, in order to get people, our goal with YouTube is we want to take advantage of the organic nature of YouTube. When we post something, it reaches people, and we want to be able to capitalize on how do I get those people onto something that we control besides the channel itself. So ultimately, with you, it looks like you share free crochet patterns. I'm assuming the opt-in for your channel are some patterns that people can get. So in every single one of your videos, the very first line of your text down here should be, get this free pattern, link to landing page. Landing page is an opt-in form for the business. Now, in each video, around 20 to 30% middle of the video, I would cut and add in a little bumper like, hey, if you're enjoying this video and want to get this free pattern, check out the link in the description where you can go and input your email and get this free thing. Get more people on your list.
never thought of that.
Then at the end of the video, you want to specifically call out, hey, if you enjoyed this video on how to do a reverse or a Taiwanese reverse stitch, and you want to learn how to do this type of stitch, you should go check out this video over here. And specifically call them out which video that they should watch next. Basically, what you want to do is you're trying to create a binge watching session. It's like, hey, I just learned something really cool. Let me go check out this other thing. And you're feeding the algorithm the thing that it wants, where you're sending people from one video to the next. And if you can create chains like that, ultimately what that will indicate to YouTube is like, hey, if I get somebody to watch this one video, they watch 7 other videos, they're going to send more traffic to that front video because they know based on their data that they're going to get more film. So more views are going to come your way. You're going to get more breadth of search. And now you're feeding emails into your business. You're getting watch time. You're getting more subscribe. It all feeds on itself.
Perfect. Makes sense.
Yeah. If you are not doing end cards, you're doing it wrong. The last 20 seconds of your video should be positioning, here's the video I should go watch next and why. And you never want to use closing language. You only want to say, I'll see you over there.
Okay.
So
Great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. So we talked about that. Let's talk a little bit about did anybody else have questions?
I had a quick question.
Sure.
You said to include long form content in your cycle. So what might that look like? So
there are a couple different strategies that you can use to have longer form content. So obviously, like, interviews are a great way. If you're doing any type of speaking or having conversations with folks, give me a little bit of background and context of like what kind of business you run.
I'm starting a business. So
Okay.
I'm a life coach, and
Perfect.
I want to work with people who are struggling with pornography. I want to stop using pornography.
Okay, cool. So I'm sure there are plenty of people who are in that sphere. This is probably going to be a little bit more complicated because usually the strategy for coaches is what are different opportunities where I can coach somebody either on a free basis or on a trial basis where they would be willing for me to post that content on my channel. So for your niche, it's probably going to be a little bit more challenging because most people are like, yeah, I want to have this conversation, but I don't want it to be public.
Yeah.
So
and that's a huge part of it is breaking down the shame, right? It can be shame-free. So
yeah. So I'm trying to think. So I guess the question is like, does anybody come to you who are looking for more like higher level coaching that then leads into that niche, where you could have a more open dialogue around a topic that they would be willing to share.
Yeah, I was thinking a longer form content might be like a success spotlight, like
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah, having conversations about people who have gone through your thing and kind of like describe the process. It's less about like what you guys talked about and more about the outcome that they got. So that could be one opportunity for you. Obviously, interviews are another area. And then lastly, one thing that we have found to be super helpful for people who already have backlogs of content is doing mashup content, where you're taking clips from multiple different pieces of content around the same topic and throwing them together into kind of a compilation of sorts. Those are like typically the key areas that we focus on. I'm trying to think. And then obviously like direct to camera. So long form, obviously, like if you can go for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours on a topic, great. But most people, like you tell them to do that and they're like, I don't have the time or the desire to do that. So then it becomes cool. How do I make more 10-minute pieces of content around areas? So thought leadership type content where you're just talking to camera about a specific subject and kind of, giving your expertise on like strategies on how you might overcome certain barriers, that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions before I talk about emails? Greg's favorite topic. Okay, perfect. Greg, do you have a channel? Maybe?
I do not. I do not have any YouTube presence at all.
Oh, okay, we're gonna have to fix that. Anyways, okay. So here is the here is the like this added like mid 5 figures, 6 figures to a handful of clients. So like you'll want to jot this down. I'm gonna use the crocheting channel as the example. So I'm happy to share with what I've got. Cool. So everybody can see the channel, yes? Okay, cool. So there's this fun little, so typically when you create a piece of content, a lot of times you will share that piece of content to your email list. Like, hey, new piece of content where we're talking about this. If you want to go check it out, here's the link. One thing that you can do is you can actually prime the pump and play on people's passivity to content by utilizing what we call a list link. Now, when you show up to a channel, you will see kind of by standard, you have this uploads category with basically this is just a singular playlist with every single one of your videos in it. When you click play all, it will open up the first video. And as you can see on the right-hand side, here are all of the videos. There are 29 videos and we're watching the first one. Now, in the URL of this video, you've got youtube.com/watch and then a whole bunch of garbage. And then you have this and list equals and then a bunch of garbage. That and list equals is what defines this playlist on the right-hand side. Now, what we can do is, because we're sending out an email, usually to at least a couple hundred people or, tens of peoples or whatever, over time, this gets to hundreds of thousands of people, which is great. What we can do is any video that we want to share to our audience, we can add this little piece of code to the back end of that video. And what that will do is that will then embed the video that we're sharing into our channel's playlist. So you're probably like, okay, so why is this valuable? Well, most people, when they are on an email and clicking onto a video, they're going to go watch that video. And if they're on desktop, they're probably going to take that video, put it off to the side, continue doing what they're doing and listen to whatever it is that you have to say, because they're interested, but they're passively listening. By being within a playlist, when you get to the end of that video, regardless of if they click on an end screen or not, it will automatically roll into the next video. So we're giving YouTube more opportunities to show that you're sending people to a video and then they're going to multiples of your video. So we're priming the prompt, giving more data to YouTube saying, hey, this video resulted in 2 or 3 views as a function of me sending people. And YouTube will then give more impressions to that video as a function of that sharing. Now, like I said, this one little hack, I had a client, he had like 15-ish thousand subscribers. He had an email list of around 200,000 people. This one strategy added around 5K a month to his channel in ad revenue. So this is like, not many people will utilize this strategy, and it is by far one of the biggest lever points for anybody who has an email list. And why email lists are so important to a YouTube channel, because it gives you so much more leverage. It gives you a way to monetize your list without actually having to ask for a sale. And you're just adding value to people, which is great. It's like a win-win-win. So please take this, use this. Once again, I'll show it one more time just so everybody understands how to get the piece of code. And the other thing too is let's say you're a fan of cats and you want to share a cat video. Let's find a cat video. I know this sounds ridiculous. Cool. 8 hours of watching birds. Close enough. If I add that little piece of code to this bird video, one sec, it will still embed the video into your playlist. So if you do an interview with somebody else and you want to share that interview, but still want people to show up to your content, you can do the same thing. You can copy the interview watch link, add your playlist link to the back end of it. And then when somebody finishes the interview that you did with so-and-so, they now roll into your playlist, your content. So you're getting people from that interview to your channel, and you're now showing an association between the two channels, which means videos from that other channel are now going to be suggested against your, it's pretty awesome. So please use this. It is very helpful.
So Drew, are you saying that you embed that link onto other people's pages?
Okay, so here's a good example. Only because I'm on this guy's email list. I've had some great conversations with him, and here, I'll share my screen again. So here's a case study. Hardy. Okay, for those who don't know Benjamin Hardy, PhD, not this Ben Hardy. Yes, there are two Benjamin Hardys, one who's an author, one who is a YouTuber. So, but Dr. Benjamin Hardy has 40,000 emails. So let's say I am Benjamin Hardy, and I just did an interview with Impact Theory last week. So what I could do is I could say, hey, I want people to watch my Impact Theory video, but I want people to show up to my channel because I'm making great content and I want more people on my channel. But I just did this awesome interview with a really cool person. So I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it over on a sticky note somewhere. Paste this over here. I'm gonna put Impact Theory. Cool. So this one was done. Cool. So I'm Ben, and I want to share this video with my audience because it's an awesome interview. What I can do is, I'll get rid of this, is I can take my list link and I can share this link out to my list rather than just the video link. And now when I send this video, this interview that I did, like showing love to the person who put me on, when they finish this interview, it will automatically roll into my content. Does that make sense? You're muted if you're saying something.
I believe so. So it's still Ben Hardy's channel, but he just took that video, that interview, and he's just tagging it onto one of his other videos that he.
So yeah, so it's like so this video is on Tom Bilyeu's channel. It is not on. It is not on Ben's channel.
Gotcha.
So it's
Gotcha.
like he wants to share his
Got it.
interview, but it is more valuable to him to actually share one of his own videos because obviously he makes money on his own video.
Right.
So he still wants to show love to Tom by sending traffic over to his interview that he did. So what he does is rather than just sending over his list to his own channel, he sends Tom's interview to them, but he puts his playlist on the back end of it. So that way, when people finish that interview, it automatically rolls into Ben's content.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Good deal. Cool. So yeah, that little strategy is worth its weight in gold. Let's see. Talked about metrics, talked about why. We talked a little bit about getting people off. Any other like questions? I've officially covered everything that I wanted to cover. So I'm leaving it as an open dialogue, open forum right now. No burning questions about YouTube.
I'll jump in again.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Drew. I guess my main question would be, given the metrics you mentioned, and if you can be mindful of that in the thumbnails, more content is better. It seems like, whether that's interviews or videos. I mean, people talk about different amounts of, one video per week, or they talk about different numbers. It seems as long as it's good, that more content's better. Is that?
Yeah. So our general rule of thumb, like, so you're playing the game if you're at 2 to 3 videos a week. Like that's our general rule of thumb. If you can only go once a week, it's not the end of the world. It's just, you're not going to grow as fast if you're going 2 or 3 videos a week. The maximum, like, don't go past 1 video a day, because in our experience, you only get about a 30% bump by doubling it to 2 a day. So it's like, it's diminishing returns. At the end of the day, the way it works is like, so when you release a video, you get a certain number of impressions on that video based on its topic and how well it performs. You release another video the next day, you've given it at least 24-hour period of breathing room, and then you get another infusion of impressions. Going any more frequent than that, you're not going to get any more additional juice. So as long as you're like striving for that 70% at the 1 minute mark for 10 to 30 minute videos, and then 50% for hour long plus, like those are kind of like the guidelines that we typically give, is like, whenever we're going back and looking at how a video performed, those are the things that we're paying attention to ask the question, like, how can we tweak our intro to get more people to stick around? And just a super 50,000 foot view. If you're doing educational thought leadership content and you lead with a powerful opinion, that's usually a good place to start.
I've got one, Drew.
Sure.
Okay, so I think my resistance so far to YouTube is my experience with audio editing, like for the podcast.
Okay.
Is it makes the idea of video editing really intimidating. So how important is the quality, the production value of the content itself? Because it sounds like what you're saying is title, thumbnail, like that's critical.
Mm-hmm.
And then as long as the content, like how good is good enough for the actual video content?
So the best example of like minimum viable product of video editing is go watch a couple of Alex Hormozi's videos. Perfect. Like it's literally like he turns his camera on, he starts talking, he turns his camera off, and that's his video. Like that is his video. Those videos from a organic and from a retention perspective, I would bet you millions of dollars that those retention curves look just as good as a Lewis Howes in the studio interview with some kick-ass interviewer. Like, wouldn't be surprised.
Because people care so much about what he's saying, they don't necessarily care about what it looks like.
Bingo. Unless you're trying to be Hollywood, nobody cares what your editing looks like as long as the audio sounds halfway decent.
Gotcha.
Nobody will accept crappy audio.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Video editing doesn't need to be intimidating, especially in the education thought leadership space. Like it literally is like all of the lower thirds, pop-ups, this, that, whatever is just, it's fluff. Like nobody cares. We've done the tests. Like there literally is no difference. It really just boils down to like, are you communicating well? And are you helping somebody get through whatever it is that you said that you were going to get them through?
Okay, cool. For somebody, again, maybe just starting out or an early stage, or maybe somebody who has traction but is trying to figure out the 80-20 here, like where should I put attention? I'm curious, what can you recommend in terms of like tools, tech stack, like again, at a minimum, what do we need for
honestly
mic,
like,
camera, software, da 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 da.
Okay, there's like 90% of it. Like most people, like, trust me, I have worked with phones. I have worked with $50,000 cameras. They do basically the same thing. It's just one is way more complicated than the other. Like this setup here is the most ridiculous setup you will ever like. So I've got an EOS R with a probably a 2K lens with an extra video card to get the signal to have this webcam be nice webcam. This is not necessary. Trust me. Like my YouTube course, when I originally shot that, I had two cameras. I was going to make it this super complex, fancy thing. And I hit the record button. I froze and I was like, why can't I do this? And then I walked into my computer. At the time, I didn't have this set up. I just had a webcam. And I was like, how do I make this easy? How do I make it simple? So I turned on OPS. I put my webcam up and I hit the record button and the course was done in like less than a week. Don't overcomplicate it. Most people feel like it needs to have all these bells and whistles. The bells and whistles are fun to play with when you get to that level. But to get started and get things going, a webcam with a halfway decent microphone, and the microphone doesn't have to be super expensive. Like get a Blue Yeti for $50 on Amazon. Like it doesn't need to be complicated. So as far as recording goes, that's the minimum, whatever. Video editing software. So I personally try to keep things simple where I prefer where I only have to cut off the ends and then maybe one or two sections in the middle. So you can do this with, there are a couple of like free softwares out there. I don't know if Windows Movie Maker is still a thing. Obviously, if you've got a Mac, iMovie works just fine. If you wanna pay for something, like the go-tos are Adobe Premiere and Final Cut. Final Cut's a one-time payment. Adobe Premiere is a part of the Creative Cloud piece. But most of what you need to do is Googleable. Like you don't have to make it super complicated, like simple cuts. You don't have to, like I said, don't think fancy graphics. You don't need it. So, and then an internet connection. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool, thank you. I have one more question. You mentioned the YouTube course.
Yeah, if you want to give it away, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, buildingthesystem.com/free course, all one word, I believe.
Okay, cool. And everybody, I will send out a recording of this and I'll have the URL to Drew's course in there too. Just so you know, I went through Drew's course when he first released it. And the feedback that I gave him was, wow, I did not realize how little I knew about YouTube. That was back then. And I also told him you should probably charge $3,000 for this course. And he still hasn't listened. So
yeah, you know,
grab it while it's free.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change his mind someday. Cool. Does anybody else have any last minute questions for Drew? All right. Thank you all for coming. If we could thank Drew for taking time out of his day to do this. It's his Friday afternoon. He's already done all his work for the week, and we're keeping him away from his weekend right now. So
It's all good.
We really appreciate it. Yeah, I've learned a ton from you today over the years. I really appreciate you in my world and the work that you're doing. So again, like, thank you from me and from everybody else for agreeing to come on and share your wizardry with us for an hour. Last, true final question. At what point should somebody consider asking you what it looks like to work with you?
Oof. Yeah. So right now, like, as you can imagine, the types of people that I work with, most people who come to me have like a business that is already up and running, and usually somewhere in the ballpark of like, you know, you're profitable, probably doing at least 6-figure in profit, is like the typical person who like comes to me and is like, yes, I want to hire you. Let's do this.
Mhm.
If you're just starting your YouTube journey, I don't think it necessarily makes sense to like pay somebody to like, you know, you can, there are some courses out there that I've taken, I've paid for, and honestly, a lot of the things that you will find in most of those courses are either things that we've talked about in here or things from the old world of back when search and meta tags and all that fun jazz was like super relevant, which now no longer is. So I would say get in the groove. You should at least be making content and like have a business behind you before you would ever contact me, most likely.
Cool. All right. Cool. Well, yeah, once again, we really appreciate it. Thanks for your time. I don't have a really clean close for this, so I'm just probably going to kick you all out of the meeting, and we'll see you later. So I know some of you came in through my newsletter, some other people came in through like Facebook group posts, but I would like to do more of these. I'd like to bring on like the amazing people I know at least once a month and teach us all something that we are not experts at and they are experts at. And this is going to be like social media, all kinds of digital marketing stuff. If you'd like to hear more and not on my newsletter currently, you can get on my newsletter, and it's really easy. You'd go to gives.biz/newsletter, and there's like this spooky opt-in page. It looks really mysterious, but it's just my weekly newsletter. So if you're not on there and you'd like to be, hop on, and I'll be happy to invite you to the next one.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Drew.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Yep. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Where's my button?